Okay, so 3C, we're going to continue with our x and y intercepts. However, instead of looking at a graph to figuring them out, we're going to solve those x and y intercepts given an equation. So that means finding them algebraically. All right, so super important that you're paying attention and you're writing these key notes down so that you can reference this for not only this assignment, but your homework. So it says that if a graph is not given, we can use algebra to actually determine the intercepts. So here's what you have to have memorized. To find the x-intercept, you are going to plug in 0 for y and solve for x. Then write answer as an ordered pair. Okay, so super important, you're copying that right now. To find an x-intercept, we plug in 0 for y and solve for x. You don't want to plug in 0 for x because then you're telling me the x-intercept is 0. We're looking for x, so we plug in 0 for y. Does anyone know why we plug in 0? Can anyone make a connection to yesterday? Remember, and you don't need to jot this down, but you can just look at my little picture here. Remember, our x-intercept was where we crossed the x-axis. And any time where I cross the x-axis, that y value is 0. So no matter where I am, whether it's this point, this point, this point, etc., all of those points have y values of 0. So that's why, whoops, I apologize. That's why we plug in 0 for y. Okay? So let's try some of these out. So the first one here, we're going to plug in 0 for y. So we'll have 0 equals 3x minus 6. And now we solve for x. How do I get x alone? We will add 6 to both sides, right? We've been solving equations for a while now. So now I get 6 equals 3x. And to get x alone, we divide by 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. So I have that 2 equals x. But I'm not just going to circle that. As I said, we're going to write our answer as an ordered pair. Remember, ordered pairs are always x, then y. So what did we get for x? We got 2, so that comes first. And then what did we plug in for y? 0. So there's my x-intercept. Does that make sense to people? So we plug in 0, find that x value, and then your ordered pair is always, for an x-intercept, is that x value, comma, 0. Let's do 3. Let's skip 2. I'll have you guys do that one in a second. Let's do number 3 together. So for number 3, same deal. We're finding our x-intercept. So I keep x. We don't know what that is, but I plug in 0 for y. And now I solve. Well, I can simplify that, right? What is 5 times 0? 0. So this is really saying 3x plus 0 equals 15. Now what's 3x plus 0? Just 3x. Good. And so now, last but not least, to get x alone, we will divide by 3. So I get x equals 5. Again, don't circle that answer. Write this as an ordered pair. X always comes first. So we found x was 5. And remember, we plugged in 0 for y. Any questions there? Okay, I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to do number 2 and number 4. Go ahead, do number 2 and number 4. Just looking for the x-intercept. When you have done them, in the private chat, go ahead and put your answers. Okay, so I'll expect to see 2 ordered pairs in the private chat. The first one will be for number 2. The second one will be for number 4. So far, I'm seeing some solid answers. If I haven't responded to you, it means you're doing things correctly. Looking good, folks. Keep on going. Keep participating. If you're unsure of something, just ask. We've had that too, which is good to see. Good, good. The last two things are correct that people have submitted. Looking good. Good job, everybody, so far. All right, so let's put these up. A lot of you have participated. Great job. So for number 2, we plug in 0 for y. And remember, to get x alone, we have to move the plus 8, so we subtract 8, right? That's going to give us a negative 8 equals positive 2x. Now divide by 2, and negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. So that ordered pair is negative 4, 0. Good? Everyone okay with that negative? All right, number 4, again, we're looking for x, so we leave x as is, but I plug in 0 for y. And this time we can actually perform some operations. So this is saying 6x minus 0, because 2 times 0 is 0. Well, what's 6x minus 0? It's just 6x. And now we can divide by 6, and 30 divided by 6 is positive 5. Okay, which again, those of you guys that participated, most of you had those correct, so good job there. Those that I didn't hear from, does this make sense to you? Do you have any questions? I assume that means you understand. I'll give one more minute to leave this part of the screen up for people to copy, and then we're going to find our y-intercepts. I bet some of you can figure out what we're going to do. Anyone have an idea? While we wait for people to copy, how do you think we find the y-intercept? 0 for x. Very good. So it's just going to be the opposite, and I'll write that down in 1 minute. All right. So I'll use a different color here for our y-intercepts. I'll use red. So to find a y-intercept, we are going to plug in 0 for x and solve for y. Then write your ordered pair, or write answer as ordered pair. Okay, so to find x-intercept, plug in 0 for y. To find y-intercept, plug in 0 for x. So for number 5, let's do that. We're looking for y, so leave y blank. We're going to now plug in 0 for x. Are you paying attention to the Zoom? Hope so. So now we solve that. Order of operations. Do we subtract or multiply? Multiply, right? So 3 times 0 is 0. So this is now saying y equals 8 minus 0. And 8 minus 0 is 8. All right, just be careful here. We're writing this as an ordered pair. And what letter always comes first? X. So, good job, Tim. So that x value that we plugged in was 0. So this time around, it doesn't go the number and then 0. It's going to be 0 and then what we solved for the y. So 0, 8 is my y-intercept. Let's do number 7 together, and then I'll have you guys go do 6 and 8. So for number 7, we're going to, again, find that y-intercept. So we're going to plug in 0 for x and leave the y blank. And now we perform our order of operations. So I'm going to multiply. The 2 times 0 is 0. And then we have 0 minus 5y. That just leaves us with negative 5y equals 10. Don't drop that negative sign, though. And now we can divide. So I get y equals negative 2. 10 divided by negative 5 is negative 2. And we write that as our ordered pair. Again, x is first. We said 0 was x, and we solve y is negative 2. Any questions? Are you writing things down, everybody? All right, I hope so. Okay, go ahead and do 6 and 8. Let's see some answers in the chat. And I want to hear from everybody. So even if you only get number 6 done, that's fine. But I want to hear everybody in the chat. Find those y-intercepts. Go for it. Looking good. Everything that's been submitted so far is correct. Good job. All right, we're looking pretty good. So I heard from a lot of you, which again, great job. Let's take a look at number 6. Plugging in 0 for x. So this one's very quick, right? 4 times 0 is 0, and 0 plus 1 gives me 1. So that ordered pair is 0, 1. Since y is alone, we didn't have to move anything from side to side. Number 8, again, we're looking for y, so leave y blank, plugging in 0 for x. This gives me 3y minus 0, which is 3y equals 9, and then we divide by 3. So y equals 9 divided by 3 is 3, so that ordered pair is 0, 3. Very good job. Those of you guys that are participating, you're doing great, so keep it up. Any questions at all with finding x and y intercepts? Okay, I'm going to leave this up for one more minute. So if we have people copying, but then we're going to go ahead to the next slide and do number 9. Okay, so as you can see with 9 and 10, okay, we're given an equation and then we're asked to find an x-intercept, a y-intercept, and a third point. And then we're going to graph. So let's start. Everyone needs to pay attention because this is slightly different. Let's start just by finding first the x-intercept. And I'm going to keep my work organized, and you need to as well. So what we're going to first do is you're going to write x-int. And this is going to be where you show me your work of how you find your x-intercept. So who can remind me? How do I find x-intercepts? We plug in what?
0 for y.
0 for y. Good, Tim. Hearing Tim's voice a lot today. Great job, Tim, but others of you should participate. So to find that x-intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for y. So that means we will have 0 equals 2x plus 4. I take that equation and we plug in 0 for y. And so I'll solve. Get x alone, we need to subtract 4. 0 minus 4 is negative 4 equals 2x, right? Those 4's cancel. Now to get x alone, we divide by 2. So negative 4 divided by negative 2, negative 4 divided by positive 2 is negative 2. Okay? So let's write that as an ordered pair. We're going to write that right down below where it says x-intercept. So we got negative 2 equals x. That means negative 2, 0. Questions? Okay, next I'm going to find my y-intercept. So I'm going to keep myself organized and again put y-int and show my work. That way, again, it's keeping yourself under control of making sure you're finding everything, and it allows me to follow your work to be able to read it correctly. So to find our y-intercept, we keep y, we're using that same equation, y equals 2x plus 4. We keep y as is, but this time we plug in 0 for x. Okay, so please make sure you have that memorized. To find x, plug in 0 for y. To find y, plug in 0 for x. This now gives us y equals 2 times 0 is 0, plus 4 gives me 4. So again, down on the line, we're going to write that as an ordered pair. X comma y. So x is 0 and then y is 4. Any questions with that? So that's just the complete review from what we did on the first page.
But what's the third point?
Great question. That's what we're about to do. So is everybody okay with x and y intercepts? Has everyone finished that? Okay, so what's the third point? Here's the deal. Listen carefully. When we are graphing, we want to always graphing lines, okay, which is we're not going to do anything more than lines this year actually. So when we're graphing lines, it is ideal to have 3 points, okay, or more. But if you just do 2 points, if one of those was off, you're never going to know if you were wrong or not. Whereas if you have 3 points, you can kind of see, are they actually making a line? Remember when we graph all of our data and occasionally maybe 1 point seems like, oh, that's wrong because it's not making a nice straight line. So having 3 points allows us to confirm we're doing this correctly. So our x and y intercept just give us 2 points, so we want to find a third point. And here's what we're going to do. So that third point, otherwise known as a test point, is where you're going to choose a value for x. I'm just writing this down for your notes wise. Choose a value for x. Make life easy on yourself. Do you want to choose -37? No. Plugging in -37s and calculating with that isn't very fun. Pick something simple. For instance, x equals 1. Okay, I already used 0 for the for the y-intercept, so I'm not going to pick 0. But how about 1? So what do I do with that? I take that 1 and I plug it into the equation. Now I'm saying x equals 1. So it's saying we don't know what y is. We have our 2, and now I'm plugging in 1 for where I see an x. Does everybody follow that? If you want to pick 2 and plug that in, go ahead. If you want to pick -1, go ahead and pick that. I'm just saying don't pick something too huge because your graph doesn't have that many lines, and it just makes it more chances for error. So I usually pick something like 1. And now we simplify. 2 times 1 is 2. And then 2 plus 4 makes 6. So what does that mean as an ordered pair? Well, that third point is that I plugged in 1 for x and got 6 for y. So there's that third point. Does anyone have questions with how I found that? Okay, so now let's actually plot those. I'm just going to use I'll use purple. So our x-intercept is -2, 0. Remember, that's on my x-axis, -2, 0. Here's that. Y-intercept is 0, 4. Okay, and now that third point is going to confirm that those intercepts were correct because I should get a nice straight line. So 1, 6, we go over to the 1 and then up to 6. And let's look at those 3 points. Do those connect as a nice straight line? Yes, they do. So we know we did these calculations correct. Everyone should take a straight edge now and connect those dots. Please extend your line. So don't just do this. Don't just leave it like that. You're going to extend that. So there I have, and lines go on forever. And again, I apologize, mine's not perfectly straight because I can't do that with the tablet, but you should have a nice straight edge. Extend with arrows. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to try that last example. So everybody try number 10. Find your x and y intercepts, and then a third point test point, and graph those 3 points. Okay, we'll check back in like, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes. Go for it. How we doing? Anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, for example, for number 10, when I'm doing the third point, I did -1 to make it like a positive.
Sure. So,
Except I don't think there's like enough room.
oh, because you got, so it went off because did you get +9?
Yeah.
If you want to just extend that a little bit, that's fine.
Okay.
You know, like make it'll be kind of like up here. See where I'm putting a point? 8, 9, you know, that's fine. Yep. Do people need more time, or how are we doing here? Why don't in the chat you type done once you finished with that, type done. That way I know when most people have finished number 10. All right, lots of people are already sending. All right, so let's go over number 10 then. Let's confirm your x-intercepts, y-intercepts. All of those should be the same, and then the test point can vary depending upon what you chose. So for our x-intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for y. So we have 0 equals -3x plus 6. We'll subtract 6. -6 equals -3x. And divide by -3. That's going to give me a positive. So 2 equals x, which means my x-intercept down on the line is going to be 2, 0. You really have to be careful with signs, guys, right? Because if one sign is off, then it's going to throw off everything. So double check all your negative work. Any questions with the x-intercept? All right, let's do the y-intercept. So y-intercept, we plug in 0 for x. So we'll have y equals -3 times 0 plus 6. This gives me 0 plus 6, which is simply 6. That means the y-intercept is 0, 6. How'd you guys do with x and y-intercepts? Good? All right. So test point. I'm going to stick with 1 just because Tim has already told us that if we use -1, it goes off the graph anyways. So let's make life easier on ourselves and let's stick with choosing x equals 1. Okay. Notice here, guys, on my points that I have, and I just want to make this clear, on the ones we've already found, we have a 2 and a 0 for x. So those are the only 2 values that you can't use for your test point. Is that clear to everybody? So if that x-intercept had been 1, don't choose 1 again. That's not going to help you. You would have to choose 2 or 3 or -1. Okay, so just any x value is fine as long as it's not one that you've already found with the x and y intercept. So since 1 works, let's plug that in. That means it'll be y equals -3 times 1 plus 6. We'll calculate that. -3 times 1 is -3. And then -3 plus 6 gives me +3. So that third point is our x. We said let's plug in 1 for x, and we get 3 for y. Leave that work up there, but at least now we can see the graph as well. Does anyone have a question, though, with how to find that test point? Don't hesitate to ask. It's brand new material, so it's fine to be confused. All right, so let's graph those 3 points and let's hope that we have a nice straight line. 2, 0, x-intercept. 0, 6, y-intercept. And then that test point of 1, 3. And hooray, those do connect. So extend that line. Remember, you take a straight edge. I'm going to just do my best for it to be decently straight and put arrows on the ends.